that moral injury, I feel like is really connected to what you're saying there, because I was raised to believe this in my life, these sets of core values and the spiritual beliefs. But now I've experienced this, and those don't line up. So it makes it very difficult to find strength in that area. It's very disheartening, and it's almost like an injury to that part of you.
It could be hard to open yourself up spiritually too. For me, it's the only thing that got me through. But when you do, then you're saying at that point, you're putting yourself out there as an example of being, turning to the Lord, or how, whatever it is. Like maybe outside playing with a horse, it's just, that's time, go and check out for a little while. But then if you don't do those things and you don't stay in that way connected, then you're setting a poor example. So you got to find that line of being, I don't know the right way to put it. Because if you're walking, somebody's watching you, that you are a person that they consider to be spiritual or a kind person, and like that you look to the Lord for something or whatever to answer questions, and then you falter, then you are really affecting that person's walk in themselves. They'll be like, see, it's pointless. And so, and that's a big responsibility to take on. So, I don't force my beliefs on anybody. I'll let them know what they are. But I don't see, like you said, there's a big, huge broad spectrum. And how do you've got to have something, though, to connect to.
Right.
I mean, you have to, or you will just
And
fall apart.
if it's not, as far as wellness, as far as self-care is concerned, this is my view on it. What's important and healthy is that it all lines up in me, not in my neighbor or so-and-so down the street or Joe Blow family member. My belief doesn't have to line up with theirs. For my own self-care, it has to be in alignment with me. That is where you have balance. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. So, did that make sense?
Yeah, then you have to find the right people to be around, though. Because you're going to come across these people who are going to try to force their stuff on you.
That's right. That's right.
And it's self-care to step away.
That is exactly correct. Has anyone experienced this?
Yesterday. Hardcore people. Bartel. All that.
And you know what? It can be frustrating, because we can't control what other people do and how they choose to share what they believe, right? But we do have control over who we're around and what we do.
And you can see some major moral things going on that you notice don't line up. And somebody could be putting on a big face of who they are in one place on Facebook or something, and the shit they're really doing in life, and you're like, how is this? And that really makes you question yourself. You got to look back at all those things you believe in, and
That's right.
you got to stand on something in your fall for everything.
Exactly. So what's healthy for me? Me. What's healthy for me? What keeps me going every day? That's what matters. And then do you have that thing on your phone that you shared, that I shared from the quote we were talking about? I want to use that here in a minute. Excuse me. So let's look at this again. The symptoms. Again, the symptoms can be physical, biological, psychological, social. But social comes into play with the boundaries and being around unhealthy people. And the people we're helping may be unhealthy. So we have to really have strong boundaries ourselves so we can help them. Because we have to meet people where they are. We don't have like the healthiest people coming to us. They're in a place where they need to learn how to be healthy. And if they want to do that, they will. But in terms of our own self-care, we have to be able to protect that because we're dealing with a lot of unhealthy things, potentially.
you recognize it.
Anyways, I haven't. One with the Indian girl?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not afraid of my truth anymore. I will not omit pieces of me to make you feel comfortable. Love me for who I am or not at all. Decide if you're a part of my history or a part of my future. I am who I am. Everybody has past. We all have past. We may have past that, you know, may not have been so great that we've struggled with. But I know for me, when I got out of the Marine Corps, it was the hardest thing I ever did. I left when my daughter was 8 months old and came back when she was 2. And I came back to a very unsupportive family, which made it even more difficult. Didn't know how to be a mom, didn't know where to go, didn't know what to do. So for me, I turned to alcohol, which turned to drugs and bad relationships. And that's these tattoos right here. I tried to kill myself April 15th, 2010. Was in ICU for 4 days and then transferred to Millwood Hospital for 3 days. And then I didn't have insurance, so they just kicked me out and said, hey, you're good, here you go. And so it's one of those things in transitioning and trying to find, and then that stigma of, hey, used drugs for a year, you try to kill yourself, and then your family holding that over your head. And so that post really means a lot to me because I am who I am. But going through that experience has made me and put me where I am today. I would not be who I am. I'm not justifying anything, but it made me realize who I am and what kind of person and how strong I am. But I hit rock bottom because I didn't know where to turn to. I wish that there was, HCC, or if I'd known about this back then, it may have made a difference. But that's where we are now, is helping make a difference in anybody's life. I had a buddy that was in the Marine Corps with me. Girlfriend called me last night and he has a shotgun in his mouth. And so that's what I dealt with from 2:30 in the morning until we were able to get him to, his healthy, safe place. But making sure that we all go through rough times, but taking care of ourselves and, I am who I am. I didn't like it, leave it. I did drugs back in my days. Who fucking cares, dude? I attempted suicide, but that's not who I am. I am somebody that wants to help. That's why I'm in the profession that I'm in now. And so for the people in my life, if they want to, there's those negative people that always want to be negative. I just void them out. And it's hard to do that with, especially family members or people that you really care about. But if you want to take care of yourself, you have to figure out how to maneuver through that too.
Exactly. Our resilience and strength is built through our process.
And you can't have compassion without going through something and true understanding.
True understanding, exactly. And that's why we're all sitting here. Because on some level, I haven't been where some of you have been, but I'm the closest I could get to it in my marriage, and I've experienced the fallout of it. And so we all have our own different perspective of it, of whatever struggle we've experienced. And now that's why we're here, to help someone else with that. So you talked a lot about the physical implications, from your experience, Rachel. So what about the psychological and social? Well, take a look at those symptoms there, and let's.
Something I learned recently is, I went through this after my breakdown. Was being alone, stagnant, frozen, didn't know what to do, afraid to make a decision. And you can really turn into a narcissist that kind of time.
Yeah.
Usually, narcissistic behavior, and then you have these people who are empathic, let's say, or feelers. The narcissist is attracted to that feeler for that reason because they make them feel better.
Yeah.
And then they might treat that person badly, and then that person has a choice either to be a victim or a victor. And when you allow yourself to be a victim, you're turning into a narcissist because suddenly it's about what everybody's done to you, and it's a fine line. So
It is.
you gotta get back up again and get the ball rolling, or you're gonna be stuck in that behavior.
Exactly.
And it's a choice.
Have you guys experienced these symptoms as a result of compassion fatigue, secondary trauma, burnout?
Yes.
Most definitely.
Okay. So this is speaking your language here. What have you done to help yourself with it?
Well, I mean, I tried to, I don't know, withdraw at first, but the person I needed to be compassionate to the most, my wife, that didn't help things. So eventually, I strengthened my spiritual life, and that's really helped turn things around.
It's been an anchor for you.
Yes.
Right. So you grabbed onto something and it worked for you.
Right.
Anyone else? What else have, personally, just to share my own, I saw my own through counseling. And a lot of, I still do that. I still stay connected to my own counseling because when doing this, I need to make sure I'm good so I can keep my stuff taken care of so I can help other people. So that's personally what I've done to get help with that. We're going to get into some more details here in a second about little things that we can do that's not such a huge, there's spiritual connections. There are knowing when to turn your phone off, saying no, things that fill your cup, whether it's going fishing or spending time with someone you love, not talking about a problem, just checking out sometimes we need to do that. So we can talk more about that later. So number 6 down here at the bottom of the page, so what do burnout, compassion fatigue, and secondary trauma tell us about self-care?
You're doing a pretty bad job. You're not doing it.
Yeah. And that we do, correct? Okay. So,
Me time.
I'm sorry?
You gotta have the me time.
Gotta have a me time. So what does your stress look like currently? Anyone? What does it look like? I'm not even first. No, not the result. What does the stress look like?
Being quieter in social settings.
Okay. So social settings are stress for you.
Yeah.
So a stress for me is I have too many, I'm just kind of helping define this. I have too many people to see this week and not enough time on my calendar. How am I going to manage all that and the paperwork and the...
Mine's more just at home, like when I leave here because you have that, your business professional mentality compartment, and then you go home and it's like you're being drug around to groups of happy people. You hate them all.
Okay.
You don't want to talk to them. And I was actually going to say the secondary traumatic stress, how I've seen that play out is like I'll hear stress from somebody else outside this kind of circle, and they'll be like, "Oh man, my day was really hard because of this," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, I just talked to somebody who cleaned up their son's brains off the floor," and they're like, "Oh," and then they stop telling me about their problems.
Yeah.
They start relating them, comparing them, and because so that naturally leads to me not telling them about stuff, and then there becomes that rift between you and those individuals that you're supposed to be close to.
Yeah. It's really hard to hear someone talk about something that sounds like they think is stressful for them, and it doesn't even compare to what you just said. Yeah, well, I spend all day trying to help my clients want to live, so it's hard to have a conversation. But here's where empathy comes into play. Everybody's stress looks different. Us sitting in this room, we may have some pretty dramatic, intense things that they were dealing with, right? But is it their fault that they're not doing that?
Now, so I started, I did understand that,
Yeah.
and I had to break down to, it is a relativity issue. Like, what's relative to their hurt is, it's as,
Absolutely.
But with that being said, though, when I am stressed, I stop talking, because I don't want to have to relate, I don't want to have to empathize all the time. It gets annoying and burdensome, and I'm like, I'd rather just let you run your suck about, the person who cuts you off, now that ruined your whole entire day. Like, that's fine.
So you shut down, that's what
Yeah,
stress looks like.
exactly.
But it is common for a lot of us to, even veterans, some veterans don't want to talk to other veterans because they didn't experience anything as bad as they did. It becomes this comparison thing, I know you guys know what I'm saying.
It's like a pregnant woman. She's pregnant or she's not. Like she might be further along or whatever, but where it's like looking at skyscrapers and comparing the height of these different skyscrapers. But if you were looking at them from the sky, they all look the same size. So it's a perspective. I mean, if I'm really caught up on comparing my shit to your shit and want to call you out on it and tell you, hey, well, I dealt with this today or I dealt with that, then that's totally taken away from the point of compassion and caring. I mean, we don't have to take it on. We have to have our own boundaries. But telling somebody that their shit doesn't matter because I have this shit going on, then you just shut them down and they don't want to talk anymore.
Yes, and that's about the empathy and openness and understanding, right? So shutting down was something your stress looked like. Someone else, what does your stress look like? I'm Tippa. I'm sorry.
Jesse, Diana.
Jesse, nice to meet you. This is Lindsay. Road rage. I will straight up get out of my car. I'm not.
That's like everybody answers. I get out, we fist fight.
There we go.
I'm sitting on her.
Go ahead.
And that's something, can be dangerous.
I think most people in this room probably experience road rage.
I think what would go wrong with
When I look at
overreacting.
my car, because I know this is Texas and I know what I have in my car, and I know that the other guy probably has the same thing, so unless we want OK Corral happening on Preston Road, I just stay in my car and yell at him and drive away. But one of the things that I found is that it's happened to me the other day is I was driving down Preston, and for those who are familiar with Preston Road, as you're going down, you go over to the George Bush Highway. There's a left-hand turn lane to get onto George Bush, and then there's 3 lanes that go straight. The turn lane was empty. There was a guy sitting in the left lane, not the turn lane, but the left lane with his turn signal on, waiting for the traffic to stop. And as I come over the hill at about 60 miles an hour, I have to stop because this idiot is in the wrong lane. And I honk the horn, and the car pulls up, and the semi pulls up, and I hear cars screeching behind me because everybody's flying by. We all start honking our horns. I'm getting madder and madder, and he's just sitting there, enjoying life. And as I just got madder, I wanted to get out and beat the shit out of this guy. So everything, and he moves, and I drive away, and I look at myself, and I'm driving, and I'm like, why did I get that upset? Why did that really? I've made mistakes like that before. I did it 2 days earlier, right? And it just. So then I have to start recognizing that and start looking at myself and, A, what is wrong with me? Why am I getting this mad over something so simple? And B, just, holy cow, I got to calm down.
One thing that happens when we have outbursts, when we hold in, like earlier you said you hold stuff in, and then when we hold it in and we pile it up, it comes out sideways in whatever crack it can find. And I think I like that analogy because it's true. And it'll come out in those kind of situations. Sometimes it'll come out in ways that's not really about what I'm really stressed about.
You'll overreact about something.
Something else, completely unrelated. So, road rage, shutting down, withdrawing, and that
outbursts on there.
outbursts.
Hmm.
What else stresses you to cause these things? Work? Family?
People.
People?
I usually end up hating people.
Now, I hate people,
Yeah.
because my husband says that at least once or twice a day.
Yeah.
I hate people. We'll just say it that way. And everyone will relate. Because they don't think like you do, they're not. We expect people to do things the way we would do them.
The nasty civilians.
Exactly. Right? Isn't that really why we hate people?
For me, it's like when the stress builds up so much, my compassion goes down, and then I'm like, that person's a fucking baby,
Yes.
and then I'm like, I fucking hate everybody in this room.
Right.
So.
It's just like a snowball.
There's days that you come in and I actually really like feel bad for what's going on, and then there's days when I'm like, you know what, you being a fucking crybaby, and it's really because I'm just so aggravated at everything going on that I'm like, I fucking hate you.
It's like, hey, Jimmy, there's a person up here who, I think you should talk to. I'll fuck care.
There you go.
We would talk to him.
Fuck that person. He should
Yeah,
have taken
then you even
yesterday.
know.
Too bad for him.
Yeah, bad days to come.
Yeah.
Well, they say we judge people on what they do, and we judge ourselves on our intentions. So if we are, like one person overwhelmed us or something, so now we don't give a fuck about anybody else, then we just, we're being, I don't know the right word. Yeah, there's something like, we're being completely false then. I mean, we're using that as an excuse to put up the wall.
Okay.
Big word.
Oh, it's got a dictionary.
It becomes everyone else's fault of mine.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so what else leads to? Because managing this is going to help you have more days where you maintain your compassion. Does that make sense? It will help. It might not guarantee it. Like we said, there's no 100%.
Yeah, you could be 40%,
Yeah.
40%.
Well, look, Cliff, he sat there right after it happened and he looked at himself and thought about it. I just did that a couple days ago. Why did it get me so upset? So at least when you start doing that, you're on the road to make it a change.
Yeah.
If Cliff had just gone the fucking speed limit, it wouldn't have been a problem.
Well, no.
60, 45, you had time to train.
No, my point being is that the light was, the turn light was red for the guy sitting there, the light's green, and there's cars that are coming over the hill, and they're seeing, hey, look, there's nobody for a mile ahead of us, and then everybody stopped dead because some idiot is wanting to turn out of the center lane.
But see, idiot, had to be defined as one.
I don't know. I learned to help with my road rage because, when I got home, there were about 6 or 7 times that I literally got out of my car and went up to the other car. And the people I probably scared the shit out of them because I did bang on their window or open their car door and almost pulled
You're
out.
that person.
Yeah. And so now, I actually went to a class to help me with that, and me and my fiance did. It was a marriage. I basically never got in trouble for it, but giving people the benefit of the doubt when somebody, my big thing is people cutting me off, not using the deliver. It pisses me off. And so now I'm like, maybe she's pregnant and is in labor right now. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe his mom is in the hospital dying and he really has to get in front of me.
Yeah.
And so that helps calm me down is thinking of something that's probably not true. He's probably just an asshole and cut me off. But that helps calm me down now is giving somebody, well, maybe he's in a hurry, he's had an emergency call or something. That's he really needs to get in front of me. And it brings that
You're
stress.
redirecting your thoughts, and it helps you break it down. Okay? So, do you guys need a break, or can we just keep on pushing on? Need a break?
You guys need to listen to exhausting.
Feel free to get up and take care of yourself.
Self-care.
Self-care.
Recognize
Oh, there you go.
Contractor, it's all what
Prima donna
It's gonna be some luck today.
Do you live here?
for his ribbit.
I live in Keller.
Okay. You like work?
I've ridden horses since I was 4.
Because I have 11 rescue horses on my property. I'm normally. So, yeah.
So sprinkles.
Yeah, like to come and ride.
Got like the lights and all that good stuff.
And also, there's the Healing Waters, is, Healing Waters. Yeah, and, they're doing a all-female, one in October.
Why is it gotta be all female?
Because it's all male ones all the rest of the time, so get over it. So, you guys should be rangers now. Broken Bow is in the middle of the week, October 20th to the 22nd, and there'll be a fishing guide, a female, matched up to each one on the trip, and Gunny Lou Duckwall, who runs the Healing Waters North Texas chapter, he asked me to get 7 female veterans. So, I need to get your.
I'm kind of hard and
Well, I have 5 and 7. There's some maybes, but they all live out of town, so. What?
Why don't you take my wife fishing? How about that?
I would love to, but they don't set it. So, and there's not a lot of locals. Only one that's been a good idea out of town. I gave you my card already. Did you give my card? You're so lucky.
I'm gonna get through these ones.
I know what guy.
I always say it was
Jesse.
She's watching it online right now. She's like, oh, what'd you just say? You start talking.
Oh, yes.
I didn't mean it. We'll just cut that part out.
Just let it review while we're talking.
Jesse, vegan Jesse.
Jesse on.
I met.
Yeah, I had a mic.
Really sweet, it all comes out of here.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's not.
Yeah.
The one you got.
Yeah, yes, usually how I go is the way to get it.
Oh, dude, you're insensitive.
That's how I like my Coke and stress.
Yep.
One more, 2 more.
Glad you could join us, Jesse. Serious, I'm glad you could join us. Oh, I read about this morning.
We
should do it late.
Smart ass.
I know you did. That's what I'm saying. Glad you joined us. I was being
I think he's
honest and sincere.
I think Cliff. I think so too.
I'm sorry?
Cliff is just so built up inside right now with rage.
It could go in moment's notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a very good song.
Yeah.
It's gonna break out song.
You never know where it's going.
Sounds trouble.
All right. I thought it would be kind of interesting for us to understand how our brains respond to our stress, the science behind it. I'll take credit for this, so this is really the dude that came up with this. But, and this is a real basic explanation. The brain is a lot more complicated than this, but this is the basics of it. But basically, it's divided into three parts: the brainstem, the limbic system, and the neocortex. And the lower part of the brain is where the fight or flight responses are located. So remember, post-traumatic stress is got the word stress in it, okay? So this explains all different levels on the spectrum of how we deal with stress, even if we don't have post-traumatic stress, even if we just have stress. The brain still works the same way, but it's going to be more on the intense side of the response when you have chronic post-traumatic stress. So the fight or flight response is in the lower part of the brain. So as you can see on the picture, the neocortex is more of the top and front part of the brain, and then the limbic system is kind of right in the center, and then down through the brainstem. The lower part of the brain regulates your heart rate, muscle tension, blood pressure, etc. So that's why when you feel stressed, or you're having symptoms of PTSD, I'm saying PTSD, I don't like the word disorder. That's why it goes into your body. Your heart rate increases, your muscles get tense, you have actual physical sweating, all of those things, right? In the middle brain, the limbic systems, that's where our emotions are triggered. It's the gatekeeper. And one researcher likes to call it the smoke detector. But, so when we experience stimuli, it comes into the brain through the limbic system. The gatekeeper decides whether it's going to our neocortex or our brainstem, the fight or flight part. So all of those fight or flight type responses means that your limbic system actually decided, the gatekeeper decided that that is a threat to you. And that's why you respond that way. I thought it'd be interesting for you to understand that. So that's why when people stigmatize post-traumatic stress as a mental health, it is mental health, but it's really a biological thing. Our brain actually responds in certain ways. And it's kind of like muscle memory. You experience traumatic events. Your nervous system and brain gets imprinted with that. So that kind of muscle memory, if you will, makes the limbic system consider things a threat that normally wouldn't be a threat. So, for example, when that person cuts you off in traffic, or someone says just the wrong thing at the wrong time, your limbic system in your brain is saying, threat, 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 enemy. I've got to fire back. It's a physical response. Your brain is doing it before you even realize you're doing it. So the limbic system is funneling those things down into the brainstem where your fight or flight is. And there's freeze too, because some people respond to trauma by freezing, not fighting. Okay, fight, flight, or freeze. So do you have any questions about what I've just said? Has anyone heard this before? Okay, awesome. Anything to add, those of you who understand what this is?
You can change it, I know that for a fact.
Yeah, you can recondition yourself.
You can like retrain your brain, because a lot of like
Yes.
the fight or flight, that's just ingrained in training, and then when
Absolutely.
stress is added to the mix, then it actually, that becomes the only way. So then when you come back with no transition out and no untraining, retraining back in your civilian life,
Yes.
that's the only way you know how to respond. So it's like the executive function of your brain just doesn't come into play at all, and you're not rational, impulse control, and all that shit.
Right. So then, really what we want to do is rewire that limbic system area.
This is why I work with the horses thing, because
Yes.
horses are a fight or flight animal also. So if
Yes.
you're going to be around them, you have to become in control with those responses. You have to be aware of them, and it's like an outward manifestation of an inward change that you're working on. So it's like biofeedback. But the animal shows what you're trying to do inside. So that's why we're so connected with, you can be connected with horses, because we have very much the same kind of thing. They're fight or flight, and it's in their limbic system. You can work without your limbic system. You could actually like exist without that part of your brain, but you would be a zombie.
Exactly.
So your brain, in order to protect itself, the neocortex cuts itself off from the limbic system so that you don't hurt anymore. And in order to reconnect those things, you have to deal with stuff and find a way to recondition your response.
It turns off. And some parts of the limbic system also turn off. Emotional learning.
Yep.
Right? Okay, so the goal is, and I want you to understand that this same process works in everyday stress, not just post-traumatic stress, okay? You can still manage your everyday stress in the same manner. So what are ways that we can retrain our brains? What are all the different ways that we can do that?
Well, there's obviously therapy, talking about it,
Okay?
actually retraining your thought process. There's a physical way to do it, like through like stimulation of your brain, like through like the brain center and things like that. There's unconventional therapy, like equine.
Yes.
Um,
Very effective. Yes.
Yeah, exercise, there's all kinds of things they've shown can help create that connection.
And if you're interested in this subject, I recommend you read, and it's a pretty in-depth study. It's called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk.
The body keeps the score.
Yes.
How do you spell the name? Bessel?
Bessel, Bessell, van der Kolk, Kolk. And he talks about, we try to hit it from one angle with talking, but sometimes if the neocortex is not working and it's shut down, talking isn't effective. So that's when we go to more visceral, physical experiences. So that's why I balance in, until you get the brain, the rational part of your brain working again properly, then you need to come through the back door.
And one of the good things about the book is that he worked with veterans, from starting with Vietnam veterans, when it wasn't even called PTS or PTSD, it was shell shock. So that's one of the good things is that, you know,
Yes, 30-something years.
30-something years ago, his stories are about the veterans that he's been working with. It's really good.
Yeah, he explains a very big cross-section of society, including veteran community. Lots of different trauma, people, types of trauma. So, but in our self-care, we can take this information and use it to help us manage our self-care by making sure that we are creating those type of healing experiences for ourselves. So whether it be spiritual experiences or going out fishing or working with horses, with animals, dogs. Animals are really great for physical, visceral experiences, and they turn on parts of the brain for us that nothing else can. So those are just some examples, but on this second page here, it's with a little bit more detail about, and I'm not going to read this to you guys, I encourage you to kind of read through. There's good information as it relates to just general stress, okay? I like his neocortex questions. Has this thought, emotion, or action been chosen deliberately or on purpose? Well, most of us have the opinion that stress happens to us, right? The So it's not that we're deliberately choosing most of the time. There may be some days when I'm deliberately choosing to be an ass.
I think ultimately you're really choosing ahead of time. Because if you say you're getting to a point where you have marital relations or marital issues, and for the last several months you've been putting yourself into doing too much for other people, and like say for 22 Kills, all these events and stuff.
Right.
And did you make a date night with your wife? Did you set aside time for her that you made sure she knew that she was a priority? And then now, 6 months later, you're having issues? Well, you have to look at how you can prevent things and you can have less stress by making choices and decisions. I'm not saying I'm not good at this right now. I recognize it.
Yeah.
But,
Yes.
so when the stress hits, it's because of choices we made for the back.
So there are choices every single day that we make, right? And so how is that choice or that emotion or thought helping, how's it working for me? That's where you start looking at yourself. So this is what happened, this is how I dealt with it, and how did that work for me? Is this thought, emotion, or action making the statement I want to make about who I really am? Just like you said earlier, Lindsay, those things weren't about things that you did in the past. Those weren't really who you are. They weren't really communicating who you really are at the core. They were symptoms of something else. But on an ongoing basis, moving forward in our being well, that's something to keep in mind. What do I want to do that will communicate who I really am? And this whole self-care topic, it's hard to talk about it by itself because it overlaps with so many other things about our well-being. And then would I teach this thought, emotion, or action to my child, my children, or to someone I care for? So that kind of circles back around to what we were saying earlier about do unto yourself as you would want done to you, Rachel, right?
There was a good book we got when we were in the fellowship and called Essentialism by a guy named Greg McEwen. And he talks about, like, if you look at your entire week, and there's also this thing on YouTube called the jelly bean thing, but when you start looking at how much time you actually have in your life and how you choose to spend it, most of our stress is created by misuse of that time. Using that time to do what you really want to do, truly putting the time to the people that you say are most important to you, and all those things, you really have to sit down and evaluate it. How many hours a week do you really have? How much are you spending with work? How much are you spending with self-care? How much are you spending with people that you love? And when you break it out like that, it's not that much time that you really have to use for those people.
Our time is limited. We don't know.
And also,
All we have is today.
You can really love somebody, but they can be bad for you.
That's right.
And you keep pouring into them, and they could be draining you and doing you no good. So you also have to make those hard decisions when somebody is not worth, not that they're not worth it, but at this time, they are not
They're
where
not
you should be
healthy.
putting
They're
your
not
effort.
working for you.
Right.
So that's part of your self-care. Definitely. I mean, at work, let's say I work somewhere and there are a lot of unhealthy people there. I can't do anything about that, right? But if it's so much that it's affecting me personally, then yes, I may have to make a choice.
Well, an unhealthy person isn't trying to pull you up to, they're trying to pull you down to them.
That's right.
So if you're doing good things for yourself and you're exercising and, you're eating well or you're doing these things that you're trying to make yourself change, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be giving you a hard time over it because they want instead you to stop because that makes them look at themselves. So if you're going to really try to make a change, sometimes you have to step away from people and come back changed rather than telling them what you're going to do. They're more likely to
Does
quit.
anyone else experience that? I mean, I'm interested in kind of what you guys think about that. Of how often do you come across the thought that these people may not be healthy for me.
Here every day.
Just,
I'm curious.
Well, I mean, that's why you have the boundaries again, though. Is because, I mean, you know that no one is you, so everybody else is going to bring something that might bring down who you are. And so you're just mitigating that by having those boundaries with your friends, with your family, so, et cetera.
exactly. These last 2 pages, well, they're really 4 because it's not back, but there's these 3 here. How to decrease your vulnerability to stress, burnout, and compassion. There are some great things on here. So what, if you could, I would like for you to take a few minutes to kind of look over this and maybe mark things that pop out at you that you aren't doing. Maybe mark some things you are doing well, is what, in a different way. I'd like for us to kind of really look at what are we already doing, what could we be doing more of in our own self-care. We'll take a few minutes and then we can talk about it. way back page, you can kind of ignore that, you can look at that one later.
Yeah, I did that in my fellowship. Each of us that were in it, take each one separately and put it together.
What are some things that we're already doing pretty well?
Know your triggers.
Okay, you're doing well with that. Kind of be aware of what your triggers are.
I mean, I'm aware of them. So they're good at, controlling.
Right. You're figuring out how to manage it.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's good that you're aware because not everyone is aware of what their triggers are. Okay. Anyone else?
Trying not to be so hard on myself. Because even as I read this, I had focused on the ones I'm not doing well. And I'm like, you know, what about the things I was doing? So I went back and I clicked on some of the ones that I do well. So.
Self-blame kind of kicks in, doesn't it? So try not to be so hard on yourself.
You have to forgive your past too. And I looked at number 6, things to avoid when experiencing compassion fatigue, and I did all of that one number now. I mean, oh shit! And I recognize it in people that I know now. And I feel bad for them. They're gonna regret it really soon, and that sucks to come back out of.
I found that I've gotten a lot better with the balancing of work and life. I pretty much, when I go home, I don't take my computer out of my bag. This is here and that's there. It's more focused on the kids and stuff like that. You great at watching TV?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Just kind of shutting things down. I didn't
Escape.
used to. I would go home when I was running some of my other organizations. I would work all day and then I would go home, and once the kids were in bed, I would get up and I would get into the office and I would work on that organization till 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning, sleep for a couple hours, get up, go back to work, and do that again. Now I have no problem checking out. To the detriment sometimes when I need to get things done. I'll move things on my calendar. I'll say I'm going to do them in the evening. I'll get ready, and I'll be like, I'm tired. You know what? And I'll move it to the next day.
I'm guilty of the same thing, and that's something I've worked on for a long time. I'm still working on it.
I have to hold her, I mean.
She does. She helps hold me accountable, but I've gotten to where I take work home less than I ever have.
I actually wrote those down, like find accountability partners. That was one thing that I found has been helpful, is setting goals. Because it shows hope for the future. But if you put those goals out there for yourself, then you are working towards something too.
Yes.
And also, don't tell your dreams to dream squashers. You know, because there are certain people that you just shouldn't, as much as you might want their approval, that's what you end up trying to go for when you tell somebody your dream or your idea. And there's some people you just shouldn't tell them to, you know. But find the right one, use that as an accountability person. Like, I would like to do this in my life. I'd like to make this change. Find somebody who really wants to, they're the encourager, you know. I knew my best friend was my best friend when we were riding bikes one day, and I was going past her, and she said, "You go, girl," instead of slow down or, you know, wanting me to stay with her or whatever. Keep it like.
But if you're coming to a dangerous cliff, you want the person.
You want them to slow you down. Like an honest person. You know what I'm talking about?
The big thing that like I see with myself is like for a while it was, you know, you see those people on the outside, they might be squelching you, and it's like, but if they have your best interest in mind,
Right.
and they're saying like, hey, maybe you should throttle back, maybe, and I used to take offense to that, like you're insulting my abilities to keep pressing forward, my ability. And it's really like, you know, and then you reach the point where you are burned out, you don't care about them, you think they were assholes to begin with, but it's like the whole time, if you would have just taken a little bit more caution before then, it would have really helped you, your goals, your dreams, all that stuff down the line.
Well, it's that thing about knowing a true friend is they'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So I don't mean it like, you know, just go
I'd say that's
to affirm the heck out of you. No, you gotta find the right
It's like the ability to take outside, not just constructive criticism, but actually like when somebody's telling you, like, hey, help yourself out. Like, I think this is bad for you. You know, you have to sit down and say, well, okay.
Yeah, it's finding the people who won't just tell you what you want to hear. They're not going to knock you down every single time, too. So.
One of the big things, I think for me, is asking for help. Because I have a big pride thing. I don't want to ask anybody for help if I feel overwhelmed at work. I mean, you know that. At work or at home, you know, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to get it done. But I've had to, you know, learn how to reach out, and if I'm completely up to here, you know, working 14 hours one day, I need to figure something out to, like, not do that and be able to take it home. So asking for help or asking a family member for help if I need something, and just kind of, that's one of my biggest things that I have to
Oftentimes we don't want to ask people because we're afraid we'll be disappointed that they won't help or whatever. But then you're martyring yourself by trying to just be, you know, do it all.
Especially when you're in a veterans organization, I was going to say, one of the reasons why I asked for you guys to come is like, everybody in here needs freaking help. Like, everybody in life needs help. But this is like the most stubborn group of people you'll ever meet.
Well, how many Marines do
I
you
would
have?
agree with that.
I know, exactly. And so, but just to sit down and everybody's like looking, like, well, who the fuck's gonna fall out first? Well, when he falls out, then I'll get help. And it's like, well, shit. Like, that doesn't need to be like that. Like, if we all sit down, we keep each other accountable, make those assessments. No one has to